Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Your Tech Today. So in this video, I'm going to do the camera review of the Moto G5 Plus. I've been using this phone as my secondary driver for almost 3 months now, and I've been taking pictures here and there with this phone over the past 3 months and actually using it as my camera phone instead of the Galaxy S7 Edge to take some critical photos which I would usually take with my S7 Edge. First of all, we will start with the hardware specs. So it has a front-facing 5 megapixel camera which is f2.2 aperture, and it has a rear-facing 12 megapixel camera with dual pixel autofocus, and it has an f1.7 aperture, and it also has a dual LED flash. There is no optical image stabilization, there is only electronic image stabilization. So there is a bit of a camera hump here, but a case like this would solve it pretty easily. And I have done a video on this case, you can check it out. I will leave it in the I button above. So as you can see, the camera hump is gone. So this phone has a very easy way of starting the camera in those situations when you quickly need to capture a photo. So just twist the phone like this and the camera just starts. Even though it is locked or anything, you can easily take the photo immediately. So if you don't want to do that, you can unlock your phone and press the camera app and it starts immediately. Let's take a look at the interface that is provided by Motorola. So this is the camera app which is open right now, and we are at the rear facing camera. You can toggle between the cameras over here. So this is the button to do that. Now let's see what all is provided. So this is your shutter button, and this is your timer button. You can go up to 10 seconds of timer. This is your HDR button in which you can put on auto, you can put it on always on, and you can switch it off also. And this is your flash trigger which is on, off and auto. Pretty self-explanatory. And then here are the modes. So these are the different modes which are provided in this app. So first is the photo mode which it starts by default. Second is the video mode. This phone can shoot up to 4K at 30 frames a second, and it can also shoot 1080p 60 frames a second, and I will be showing you samples of all of that later in the video. Next is the panorama mode. I did not take a panorama sample, but it is pretty easy to use. I can just show it to you now. You just press it, and if you move it upwards, it will take a vertical panorama, and if you move it sideways, it will take a horizontal panorama like this. So you have to be very steady while taking the panorama, as it's sort of getting recorded like a video, and it does not tell you, it tells you whether you're going very fast or very slow, and you have to maintain that line. So the next mode is the slow motion mode. The rear camera records at 720p slow motion without any audio. I'll show you a sample later. And it has the full manual mode, which is the next mode. So in the full manual, you can adjust the focus, white balance, and you can I'll just show it to you how those controls are. If you press this arrow button downwards, you get all the controls. So first is the focus point. So it's an auto, and you can go and focus to your liking. In manual mode, one more thing is that it shows you the focus point with the help of these green squares. So wherever the green squares are lighting up, that is where your focus point is. So you can choose your focus point, you can choose your white balance, you can choose your shutter time, and you can shutter speed, that is. You can choose your ISO, which goes up to 3200, but I will suggest you never to do that because you'll have a lot of noise. Stick to around 400 to 800, you will be fine. And then you have the exposure control over here. So to view what you have clicked, you have to swipe from this side and your gallery opens up. And to access the settings for the camera, you go this side, swipe from the left side, and you have the shutter sound. Where do you want to store? As you know, this phone has a dedicated memory slot with the 2 SIM cards, so you can use an external SD card. I'm using the phone storage. So here you can switch off and switch on that the twisting mode to switch on the camera, as I showed you earlier. Then save location is geolocation. Then you can set the resolution. So if you want a wide photo, you will only get 9.1 megapixels. Otherwise, you can take it at 4:3. So then you can choose the shutter type. So tap anywhere or shutter button. I like to keep it at shutter button. And then you have the video size. So as I told you, it goes up to 4K 30 frames a second. So it goes up to 4K 30 frames a second, and the bitrate used is 50 Mbps. So it records 4K at 50 Mbps, 1080p 60 at 17 Mbps, and 1080 30 is also at 17 Mbps. 720p is recorded at 10 Mbps. And I don't think there's any need to check the VGA resolution of the video also, because most of us don't use it. So as you can see, slow motion is recorded at 120 frames a second and the bitrate is 10 Mbps. So this was the rear camera. Now when we want to switch to the front camera, this is the button. So same thing, timer. Then you have the beautification mode, which is on auto. Then you can select manual and change the how much beautification you want to be applied. So let's leave it at auto. And then you have the flash. So basically flash is the screen becomes bright, and suppose I'll just show it to you. So this is how the screen becomes bright and lights up your face when you're taking a selfie. And you have HDR mode also in the front camera. And then again the different modes. You have the video mode. It can shoot at 1080p, 30 frames a second, and 480p slow motion. Let's look at the settings that we have. So you have the storage, almost similar, 5 megapixel, and if you want to change that, you will have a 3.8 megapixel 16:9 photo from the front camera if you want it. Then you have the selfie photo mirror. So if you switch this on, you will get the photo as you see it on the camera screen while clicking. So it will be like this, otherwise it will be flipped. So that will be like this. 4K will not be upside down. Let me just show it to you. So with the photo mirror on, selfie photo mirror, this is what you will get, and if it is off, you will get this image. So again, shutter button type, tap anywhere, and full HD. Video mode is full HD and 720p and 480p. So the bit rates are 1080p 16 Mbps at 30 frames a second, and slow motion is at 6 Mbps. That's all. The good thing is at least you have an option to take slow motion from the front camera also. So what are the other modes we have? We have video, as I showed you. Then we have again slow motion. This is how you go into them, and you have a full manual mode with the front camera also. So this is your white balance, this is your shutter speed, ISO, and your exposure, as the front camera is not autofocusing type, so you do not have the focus control. So let's take a look at some of the picture samples, but first we will start from the slow motion. So this is a video of the fan running at relatively full speed, and after you record the slow motion video, you have an option to edit it in the phone itself. So let's see how it looks. This is the fan at full speed, and see how much it reduces it. It's 120 frames a second, as we know, but it is okay, I would say. You need really good light for recording slow motion. Don't expect to get very good results. There will be some artifacts and there will be some noise, but at least you have the option. And there is no audio recorded during slow motion. So you can see, you can extend it if you want. So this phone does not come with a separate gallery app. So you have to use Google Photos or download a third-party app from the Play Store. So I used the Google Photos app only. It's pretty convenient, and it stores all your photos on the cloud, and it's unlimited at a good resolution. Let's look at some of the samples that I have taken. So this is showing you the bokeh effect, and so there are a few pipes behind, and this is the first pipe. So you can see what kind of nice bokeh we get with this f1.7 camera, and it can focus pretty close also. Similar photo. And again, showing you the macro shot over here, you can see clearly how sharp the macro photos are, and this is in good daylight conditions. And again, the bokeh is also quite nice. So this is a landscape shot. So the details are pretty nice and everything is pretty sharp. So next we'll look at some of the HDR and non-HDR photos. So this photo was taken with the HDR mode off. And you can see in the trees there is hardly any detail in the shadow areas because there is a sky which is very bright. Now the HDR mode is on. So you can see how much of more colors and details we got in the trees, and the sky is also nicely exposed. Again, HDR and HDR off. HDR, HDR off. So I will not explain every photo, like you can make out for yourself the quality difference between HDR and non-HDR. So the next picture is I'm going to show you between auto and off and on. So this is in auto HDR. So you can see it has tried to expose and not gone overboard with the HDR or increased it too much. Next will be off. So this is, it's totally off, and this is with on. So on and auto look pretty similar, but in the on HDR on photo you get more details. So this is a photo of a dark corridor with the flash on. So next picture I'll show you how dark it actually was, but what I want to say is the flash exposes really well. The white balance comes out really nicely because it has a dual tone LED flash. So this is with the flash on and this is with the flash off. So you can see how dark it actually was and how nicely it exposed with the flash. Again, a few samples. Tree was looking really nice. This is HDR off and HDR on. In this scenario, you can really make out the difference between an HDR off and on. So these are some indoor light samples in which there are a lot of colors, different colors, and you can have an idea of how well this camera performs and how accurately it gets the colors right. So different, colorful things. This is, an aisle in a shopping complex, different products. Again, the bokeh effect and the colors. This photo really nicely shows the bokeh. So the focus was right on the first bottle here, and it goes and you can see the fading of the bokeh. Here also, the focus was on this first box over here. So this is in a restaurant, and how it exposes. There's a bit of noise in this photo. This is from the rear facing camera, and this is from the front facing camera with the beauty mode on, so it has cleared out my skin and something like that. So the ceiling. So you can see the photos were taken in that under that ceiling, and it was pretty low light only. So you can make out like the camera does perform okay in low light, even the front camera. So this is again a picture. So there's a shop here, there is a light coming from that side, and I'm under a street light, and this is from the front facing camera. So there was a guy cooking, so you can see the shutter speed was at around 1/30th, which I checked, and it was in the shop light condition only. There was no sunlight or anything. So low light photos. So this also is a street with street lights and some decorative lights put for some festival, and you can see it has got the picture pretty nicely. There will be noise because sensors are too small, and even though it's a 12 megapixel camera, still phone sensors are like that they do get noisy in low light. So here you can see nicely the lights and everything. Even though it's such a low light condition, it has exposed it really well. And there's not much of a flare from the car's lights also. So guys, these were the pictures, sample pictures, and now I'll show you some video samples, and then we will come back and talk about my verdict of the camera of this phone. So this is the 4K video sample in daylight. It's not too sunny, it's cloudy, and it's around 5 PM right now. This is handheld. I'm going to pan and walk a little bit. Let's check out the bokeh. So it's focused on this pipe right now, and you can check out the bokeh over here, and it focuses also pretty fast. This is the 1080p 60 frames a second video sample, and this does not have image stabilization or HDR enabled because that option is not there in this mode. And one more thing I would like to mention is that you can take pictures while recording video in this phone in any of the modes. So 60 frames a second is something that I prefer, and I always shoot my videos in 60 FPS. And also for sports events or something in fast motion, 60 FPS is good. And if you're producing your video in 30 frames a second, you can always slow down 60 frames a second and get that nice slow motion effect. So it's good that this phone has that, but take care of the stabilization because this phone does not have OIS, and electronic stabilization is not always the best option to use. Now this is the full HD 30 frames a second, which also has electronic stabilization enabled, and the HDR is also enabled. In this we can check the focus now. So the autofocus seems to be taking a lot of time, especially when it focuses at something very close by. So it's quick to capture that, get the focus on that, but once you remove that object, it takes a bit of time to get the background or far away object in focus. But the electronic stabilization seems to be working, as this is handheld only. I will walk around a bit and you can check the stabilization. I'll pan a little bit. And the audio is also through the inbuilt microphone. Guys, this is the front facing camera video sample, full HD, 30 frames a second. There is no electronic image stabilization, there is no HDR. But you can see it's a very wide angle lens, so that is something very good about this phone. I'll walk around a bit and you can see handheld how stable the video is. So it's not too sunny, the sun is over there, it's in the clouds. I hope it rains. It's really hot in Bangalore right now. The sun is right behind me, but still my face is lit or exposed. Audio also is through the inbuilt microphone. Video sample with HDR on in 4K. So we can see nice details in the shadow areas, and the skies are also not highly exposed or overexposed, and you can see the details in the leaves. Let's check it without HDR on. Sample with the HDR off in video, and there isn't too much of a difference, I think, but a very slight difference is there in HDR on mode. That is what I can see from the phone screen, but I will check that after transferring the files to the computer. .4K video sample in street lighting or sort of low lighting condition. In 4K there is no electronic stabilization, and this is handheld. How the glare is, or the lens flare. So it's having a little bit of hard time focusing in low light. This is full HD, 60 frames a second. So obviously the video will be darker because 60 frames a second uses more light. It needs brighter light to expose. And also in this, again, there is no electronic image stabilization. And we'll check the focus. It's having a bit of difficulty focusing in this light. Finally, this is 1080p, 30 frames a second. In this, there is stabilization, so I'll walk around a little bit and you can probably feel the video is much more stable. So there's no OIS or optical image stabilization, but there is electronic image stabilization. So let's see. In this it's focusing better. Let me go to the same spot and see. So this is where I was standing. So in low light, the camera is struggling in focusing. As you saw near the street light, it was focusing very easily, but over here it's struggling. Again, yeah, we've got a focus on the hand. So guys, this is the video from the front facing camera in street lighting or low light condition. So you can see how it is. There is no image stabilization in the front camera. Even electronic image stabilization is not there. So I'm very close to the street light now. It's right on top. There's a lot of lens flare in the front camera. So this is the kind of video quality you can expect. The front camera is better than expected, even though it's f2.2, it's performing pretty good according to me. And even the video quality at Full HD seems to be okay. There is a bit more noise than expected, but the sensor is so small, so we really can't do anything about it. Okay, video sample with the LED light on while video recording. In not so very dark area, not completely dark, but it's pretty low light. So you can see the LED light is pretty, the LED light is pretty strong. So I hope you got a good idea from the video samples also how this camera performs. See, on YouTube what you will see, it will have some of the artifacts and editing also. The whole video is in 1080p, so even the 4K samples are downsampled to 1080p. So that way there can be some issues, but otherwise I'll tell you. That is why I'm going to talk to you about it now. Few of the pros and the cons of the camera. First of all, in this price range, I think this is the best camera. This is my verdict. If you want a camera-centric phone, this is the one to go for. The good thing is that the rear camera is 12 megapixel and it has dual pixel autofocus, so it focuses really fast, especially in pictures. In videos, there is sometimes some issues, but in pictures at least you will get focus really fast and accurate. And also the f1.7 aperture really helps in low light. I just wish they would have added OIS, increased the cost by 2000 rupees or something like that, and added optical image stabilization. Then this would have been a perfect camera phone in this price range. I did not find any issue with the audio in video samples like what I recorded. They were pretty okay. The front facing camera has a very wide field of view, so it is really nice for taking large group selfies, and the quality also is pretty nice. There are not many bad things with the camera of this phone, but a few are there. Like in the front camera, slow motion quality is really bad, and it's at 480p, so there is no point using that. So I wish it could be 720p. So there is noise in slow motion in the rear camera also, because it needs more light. Slow motion at 120 frames a second, so you can expect a lot of noise if the light is not enough and you're taking slow motion photos. And 1080p 60 frames a second, I can see a lot of artifacts, and I would say either recorded 4K or 1080p 30 frames a second. The electronic image stabilization causes a lot of artifacts again. It causes a jello effect, which I did not like at all. The audio recorded is at 129 kilobits per second in video, and it's at 48 kilohertz. So that's okay. I wish it was at a higher bitrate and we could get a little better quality of audio. Finally, I would say the interface of the camera app, I did not like it too much. I wish it was better. So probably Lenovo can work on it, or Moto can work on it and give us a better camera app in the future. So guys, that is pretty much it. My verdict is the camera is really good on this phone, and it sort of beats a lot of cameras in a price above this also. So at this price, this is a killer camera phone, and even the phone is really good, but that we will talk about in the full review, which will be coming shortly. If you have any more questions, please leave it in the comment section below. I'll answer it as soon as possible. And thanks for watching this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon also, so that you get notified whenever I upload a video. Hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.